Bureau of Security and Investigative Services, and it is time to kick off this meeting. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody, and in the interests of, I realize everybody's time is important, so we are going to start on time. Before I call the meeting to order, though, we are going to have the moderator step in and do some housekeeping issues. So Tricia, I will kick it over to you.
Thank you so much. So I would just like to remind committee members and senior staff who are not speaking to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of an unmuted microphone, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder or simply mute the microphone. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the Bureau Chief reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, public comment will be requested, and at the Bureau's direction, I will turn on and announce the opening of the question and answer feature. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. Once unmuted, the member of the public may verbally state their comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the Bureau. Such inquiries submitted using this feature will not be answered. If any attendees utilize a profane name, they will not be called upon to prevent members of the public from being subjected to profane language. While you are free to express criticism or negative views for the sake of members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments to the Bureau. Thank you so much. And now I turn it back over to the Bureau Chief.
Thanks, Tricia. So right now it is 10:02, and I will call the meeting to order. So I'm really excited that we have 4 new members with us today. One of them is going to be a little bit late, and I'm not sure if my boss, who is the head of Department of Consumer Affairs, is here on the line yet. Ms. Kirkmeyer? Oh, you know what? I just got an email from her. She's having trouble with her link. So I'm going to skip over this for now and work offline with that. And I'll pass it over to you, Antoine, to go ahead and do a roll call at the moment.
Okay, this is Antoine doing roll call for the BSIS Advisory Committee meeting for October 8th, 2020. Let's start with Brian Boglin.
Present.
Brian Boglin is present. Phil Sashir. I believe I pronounced that right.
This meeting is being recorded.
Sashir, but you could pronounce it Phil. Present.
Sashir. Thank you so much for the correction. Anton Farmby.
Antoine, he sent an email saying he was having difficulty connecting. I resent him the link, just FYI.
Oh, okay. I had given him a call-in number as well, so I'll skip over that for now. Frank Huntington?
Present.
Frank Huntington present. Mark Miller?
Hi, Antoine, I'm here.
Mark Miller present. I believe Darren Morgan is going to be a little bit late. Nancy Murish?
Present.
Nancy's present. Eli Owens, is he on? Not yet. Stanton Perez?
Present.
Stanton is present. Chris Sayers? Chris is not on yet. And Glenn Younger.
Chris Sayers is here, Antoine.
Glenn Younger is here.
Oh, perfect. Chris is there. Okay. For some reason, I didn't see your name, Chris, and Glenn is here. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 members present, so we have quorum.
All right, fabulous. Before we move on, I see Carrie Holmes from Board and Bureau Relations has her hand up. Carrie.
Hi, Lynn. This is Carrie Holmes, Board and Bureau Relations. I just wanted to let you know we had a little technical difficulty here, but Director Kirkmeyer should be in right now. And so if you could promote her to panelist, that would be great. Thank you.
And this is the moderator. I have just promoted Kim to a panelist.
Thank you so much.
Fabulous. All right, I guess we can start kicking off the swearing in of our new members. Kim, just so you know, Darren Morgan is running late, so he will not be able to be sworn in immediately. So I'll follow up with you after the meeting to figure out what we need to do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So first on my list is Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, are you on the line?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and read, and then if you can just repeat after me. So Mark
Miller,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of
the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your willingness to be on this committee, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful and an honor to be on the committee. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Younger, are you on the line?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. All right, same thing. Just please repeat after me. I,
Glenn Younger,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you very much, Mr. Younger, for your service on the committee, and congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Honored.
Very looking forward to having everyone on board. And then the last one, Mr. Kachir, and I'm sorry if I ruined that last name.
No problem, Sasha Ray.
Saray. All right. So again, same thing. If you would just repeat after me. I,
Bill Sasha Ray,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear truth and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
about which I am about to enter.
about which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, and again, thank you for your service on this committee, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Director. We really appreciate your time. And congratulations to the 3 members who were just sworn in. I appreciate that. And what I'd like to do right now, because we have so many new members, is just really quickly call on everybody and have everybody give a sentence or two about themselves. So this is a difficult format, and I just kind of want to have everybody get a little bit of an idea of who it is they're serving with on the committee. This is a new format. Hopefully, we'll go back to live meetings sometime next year. But in the meantime, I'm just going to call around to everybody in alphabetical order and see if we can get a feel for who our fellow advisory committee members are. So I'm going to start with Brian Boglin. Hi, Brian. Can you give us a little bit of information about yourself, please?
Good morning, Brian Boglin, representing alarm company operators. Also serve on the California Alarm Association as the Sergeant at Arms and other state level task groups. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm not sure if Anton Farmby is on. Anton, are you on the call?
This is moderator. If you want, I can unmute our unidentified caller just to double check. Would you like me to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's roll the dice.
All right. All right. So we have a call in. Is this perhaps Anton?
Good morning, Chief. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Anton?
I'm doing well. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I've had some technical difficulties, but I am here by phone. My name is Anton Farmby. I am the Vice President of SEIU, United Service Workers West. We represent about 20,000 security officer personnel in the state of California, and I'm a proud member of the advisory committee. Thanks for being with you all this morning.
Thank you, Anton. I'm glad you're finally able to get through. All right, next on the list is Frank Huntington III.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Chief. Frank Huntington, I'm the private investigator representative for the state. Very honored to be in my second term in that position. I'm a 30-year investigator in Sacramento, also proud member of CALI, the California Association of Licensed Investigators, served as 10 years as chairman of the board, and I'm currently the secretary of the association. Thank you again, Chief, and fellow members.
Thank you, Frank. And I inadvertently skipped over Phil Sachere. Phil, would you like to introduce yourself? And again, I hope I got your last name right.
That was pretty close. Not a problem. I always had that problem even in school. My name is Phil Sachere. I'm a BSI instructor, which I've been doing for over 20 years in the Bay Area. And I teach mainly security guards and firearms, baton, and so on. And I'm happy to be on the advisory committee. Thank you.
And we're happy to have you. And I promise to learn the correct pronunciation of your name very quickly. So then up next we have Mark Miller.
Hi, good morning, Lynn. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you just fine, Mark.
Good. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Miller. I work for Securitas Security Services USA
We are a large global security company. I've been with Securitas and in the security industry for 29 years. I also am the legislative director for CalSAGA. CalSAGA is the nonprofit organization that represents security companies in California. And I have attended many of these meetings as a member of the public in the audience. So this is this is a nice day for me to finally be on the committee. So it's good to be here.
We're excited to have you. That's fabulous. Okay. Next up, we have Eli Owen. Are you on the line, Eli?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Thanks so much for having me, team. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. My name's Eli Owen, so I think I've been on the committee for the last 2 years, if memory serves. 6 years at Cal OES, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, where I work Homeland Security issues. Before that, 10 years with the CIA. Born in South Lake Tahoe, grew up in Sacramento, and pleasure to be here serving on the advisory committee.
Awesome. Fabulous. Thanks, Eli. I did not know that you were previously with the CIA. That's interesting. Okay, next up we have Stanton Perez. Stanton, are you on?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everybody. I'm proud to serve on the board. I've been on for a couple of terms now. I'm a retired California Highway Patrol chief. After that, I served as vice president of an international security firm and currently operate my own private consulting business. Thank you again.
Thank you, Stanton. Appreciate having you here today. Next up is Chris Sayers. Hi, Chris.
Good morning, Chief and board. This is Chris Sayers. I actually am working for the Bureau in their I'll get this right, proprietary private security services. So the proprietary companies like who I work for is the Walt Disney Company here at Disneyland in Southern California. So we have our own security team. That's the industry that I'm representing. I've been on the board now. This is my first term. It's been a pleasure, certainly, as we get through this tough time. And my prior career was in law enforcement. I worked for the Anaheim Police Department for 29 years before retiring and moving into the private sector.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you being here today. And last but not least, we have one of our new members, Glenn Younger. Hi, Glenn.
Good morning. I'll get the mute button working yet. Hi, I'm Glenn Younger. Thank you, Chief. I'm representing locksmiths and have an access control company in San Diego, California. So I'm a small businessman. I'm on the Contractor State License Board Test Update Committee and ASIS Legislation Committee, in addition to running a small business in San Diego. Honored to be here.
All right, thank you. Okay, that is everybody. So now that we have a good idea of who's who on the committee, we're going to move ahead and do approval of our advisory committee meeting minutes from February 13th. So what I'm going to need is to get somebody to move, and then I'm also going to need a second on that. If anybody would like to move, make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
All right, thank you. Can I get a second?
This is Mark Miller. I second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. So now we're going to have Antoine call the roll for the vote on that.
All right. The roll call is to approve the meeting minutes from the February 13th meeting. Brian Boglin. Brian, are you there?
Sorry, it must not come through. Yes.
It's all good. I'm going to take my time for you guys. Phil?
Yes.
Phil is a yes. Anton?
Yes.
Anton Farmby, you should be able to unmute yourself as well.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello?
So we're just doing the motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'm totally sorry. I've been talking the entire time. I don't have control for muting. I can mute from my phone here, but I've not. I had moved the motion. I had a question, and I'm assuming no one heard me. But I approve. I just want to make folks aware that I don't know what's happening here, but yes.
Sounds good. Yeah. If you're calling in from your phone, you can just mute and unmute your phone whenever you would like to speak through. So.
Yes, no, I'm aware of that, but my phone is unmuted, and I'm assuming that I was muted by the moderator. So I just wanted to make that point that I do have control for my phone, but yes, I approve.
Okay. Thank you, Anton. Frank Huntington.
Yes, I approve.
All right. Mark Miller.
Aye.
Nancy Murish.
Aye.
Eli Owen.
Aye.
Eli Owen, aye. Stanton Perez.
Aye.
Chris Sayers.
Aye.
Chris Sayers, aye. Glenn Younger.
Aye.
Glenn Younger, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, Antoine. Okay, and it was brought to my attention that I inadvertently skipped over one of our very important advisory committee members, Nancy Murish. So Nancy, I apologize for that. And if you want to give a couple of sentences and introduce yourself, I would appreciate it.
That's okay, no problem. So short and sweet, I'm a gerontologist and I work in older adult advocacy and education.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 5, which is Bureau Chief's introduction, welcome remarks, and Bureau updates. So welcome everybody. I appreciate everybody's flexibility with this new format. It is difficult. We are working through issues as you can tell. Hopefully we won't have too many meetings online. In-person meetings are a lot better for a number of reasons, but because of COVID, I'm sure you all know that this is our option currently. We had to cancel the June meeting because everything was still new and we didn't have the virtual meetings set up just then. But since then, we've had WebEx and we'll figure it out one way or the other. So I wanted to welcome everybody here today, and I wanted to just give everybody an update on what's been going on since our last meeting. Our last meeting was in February. Shortly after that, COVID hit and everybody kind of shut down, including the Bureau. We shut down for several months to the public, but we were working really hard behind the scenes, and we were still showing up to the office, although we were doing staggered work hours and social distancing of all of our staff. In fact, not only were we working behind the scenes, but we instituted an expedited processing system for the first 8 weeks, I believe, of the pandemic because security guards were in such high demand. They were doing triage services at healthcare clinics and hospitals. And so we were doing our part by speeding up the process and getting most of the guards who were applying under that special service, we were approving them within 24 hours. So we did a little over 600 approvals in 8 weeks, and the program was so popular that to this day, I get questions on why can't you keep it up? Why can't we do all of our guard approvals that quickly? And the quick answer is because it's incredibly labor intensive. You know, we had several staff working nonstop full time on those expedited approvals. So unfortunately, we can't do them year round, although everybody would like to, including me. So we are back to normal processing now. We reopened to the public several months ago, and everything is going along as it was before we shut down. So we've got the same work hours here. We have a terminal in our lobby that I think we've had now for 6 or 8 months. So when people come in and they have issues with their application online, we can have them work on it right there. They can pay for it via credit card right there in our office. We still can't take cash or checks, but the addition of the computer terminal has really helped out our customer service flow. Everybody's noticed, but we've also made our website user-friendly, and for the first time, it is mobile-friendly. We have quite a few of our licensees and applicant access to a computer. They do a lot of their applying friendly website really helped streamline that. So check it out when you get a chance. What I'm also wanted to draw everybody's attention to is our new Twitter account and our new Facebook account. So if you could hit that like and subscribe button on those two accounts, that would be great. We don't push out a lot of content on there, but we do push out big announcements. One of the big announcements that we've pushed off to folks recently is we are really trying to emphasize our online services. We put back online in the last year our firearms initial processing and our firearms renewal processing. I can tell you from firsthand experience that those two processes are the source of about 80% of our legislative and consumer-driven escalation complaints. So what we are doing with our public relations push is to encourage everybody to apply online. A little later on in the program, we're going to have our licensing manager give an update on the usage of the online services. It's not as high as we'd like, so that's why we're partnering with our communications team to get the word out on all of our platforms. We've also sent letters to all of our training facilities, letting them know that the online services are the best way to go for their clients. And we're going to keep engaging with our stakeholders and pushing that message out there as well. Just a quick aside on the legislative session this year, which ended at the last day of August. Because of COVID, the legislation this year affecting BSIS was pretty minor, but Antoine, who is our policy unit manager, will go over the few bills that did pass that do impact us. So, and then finally, I just want to let everybody know that we still have two openings on our advisory committee. One, the industry opening for repossessors, and one, a public member that has traditionally been filled by law enforcement. So if you are interested in this position, or if you know anybody who's interested in these two positions, have them fill it out online. It's under advisory committee on our website, on our new and improved website. So, and then the only other issue that I wanted to bring up, and this relates to something that Mr. Farnby asked at our last meeting, which was weighing in on AB 5, which was a bill that passed either last year or the year before. And he wanted to know what our take on it was. Just very briefly, because this is not in our jurisdiction or our wheelhouse, it's still being litigated and there's a proposition on the ballot for it. We cannot offer any guidance on that. So, Mr. Farnby, I just wanted to follow up with you on your question from last time.
Thank you, Chief. Understood.
Yeah, great. Okay, good. It sounds like you were able to unmute yourself with no problem this time.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Glad to hear it. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments so far? Okay, silence is good. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to the update on the Bureau's licensing unit. It's going to be Jasmine Argo, who is our guru for the licensing unit. And Jasmine.
Thank you. This is Jasmine Argo. You guys can hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. So just to give a few number updates on the volume that we have in licensing. We have a total of 289,000 guard licenses currently and 35,000 firearm. And overall, we currently have licensed 475,000 different variety of license types. And when we looked at our fiscal year ending, there was actually a 6% decrease of applications received from prior fiscal year for a total of 86,671. There was a 7% decrease of applications issued from the prior year, a total of 74,765 apps issued. There was a 6% increase of applications renewed prior fiscal year and a total of 119,000 applications renewed. Last year, our processing turnaround times met 83% of the time are our goals, and currently we're meeting 70%, but we're working on expediting that, which leads me to tell you more about the online processing times. We implemented Initial on October 16th, 2019, and we are currently, as of August, 44% of our initial firearms are online, and our firearm renewal initiated January 9th of this year, and we're currently at 44% online, which is not where we would like to be. It's been steady the last 3 months, hovering around 40%. So with our help and our Twitter and updates on our website, we want to push online. The reason being, right now, we're currently hovering between 4 and 5 weeks for online processing time for firearm renewals, and for paper, it's about 8 weeks. So any of your facilities, let them know online is going to be more efficient. We do have issues with deficiencies, and we're currently working on updating Breeze to display these clearly. And so hopefully this will lessen the amount of calls and emails that we do get regarding deficiencies. And depending on how that goes, we'll implement that for other license types, because right now it's only currently for firearm. We did update the website, like Lynn mentioned, and we have Security Guard how to apply videos on our website to assist with filling out the correct forms. And that being said, does anybody have any questions or concerns for licensing?
So Jasmine, I'm going to jump in. This is Lynn, and I just want to follow up on a couple of points Jasmine made. We have close to 500,000 licensees. And Jasmine, how many different license types do we have?
Let me check. Sorry.
I know it's in the 20s. We have
19 or 20.
Right. So we have, my point being, we have an awful lot of volume. We have an awful lot of license types, and all of this drives volume to the Bureau, which is why we take our time, approving the applications that come in, because we have such a high volume. One of the, negative impacts of COVID has been that, we have some staff who are now being caretakers and have requested extended leave. So we're struggling a little bit on the personnel side. I just wanted to update you guys also, excuse me, on the the ways to reach the Bureau. We have a call center that answers all incoming calls. So 100% of the incoming calls are not answered by BSIS employees. They are answered by the DCA call center. And they are hardworking, they're very busy. They answer several different boards and bureaus' incoming calls. And they take, according to the last figures they gave me, they take over 1,000 calls a day related to BSIS. The majority of those calls are status. Where am I in the processing line? Where am I? How long is it going to be? So a couple of things that I like to remind everybody is our processing times are on our website, right on the front page of our website. So you can always check on there and see where you're at in the queue. Make sure you don't have any deficiencies in your application. And that means, if you're getting a live scan for your fingerprints, make sure that the name that you use on your live scan form exactly matches the name that you use on your application. Because if you do so, and if you use your social security number on the live scan form, it will auto match and it will approve much quicker than if we have to go in and manually match it up. So there's a couple of helpful hints there to help smooth the application process for folks. And we have also our SIS box, which is what we call the bsis@dca.ca.gov email address, where we take all incoming inquiries via email. That's the best way to reach us. The call center, it's rather, I would say, hit or miss on whether or not you're going to be able to get through to anybody at BSIS. But I will tell you that the SIS box gets answered within usually 1 business week. So you can get a quick answer that way. And you can be sure, because it is answered entirely by BSIS staff, that it's an accurate response and it'll be a timely response. So with that, I will kick it open to any questions from board members on our licensing process.
I was raising my hand. I'm not sure if that came through, Chief. It's Brian Boglin.
Okay, yeah, I see it now. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Is there any way that we can get from the Bureau a directory of, because, for example, I used to work with Carmelita for alarm company operators, and that just cuts down a lot of the traffic with calls and whatnot. So I know that there's specific email addresses for the different functioning groups. Is there any type of directory that we could get access to, or maybe on the website?
Oh, that's
It is on our
good.
website.
Okay.
Directory on the website?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look for that. I did not see that on there. Thank you.
All right, so it looks like, I just did a quick check here. It looks like we took that down from our new website. So Brian, you bring up an interesting point. So we will see what we can do to get it up again. Oh, Antoine is pinging me. So I'll have Antoine address that.
Yes, so we can definitely provide you a list of the alarm company desk emails separately. That's fine. But when we redid our website, if you go on our website and then you click Contact Us, which is on the top right, you will get a feature. A new feature is Message the Bureau, and it's a drop-down menu where essentially you can pick whether you're a company applicant or an employee application or whatnot. Or if you're a veteran or you want to file a complaint, you just pick which one you want to message us about, and then it gives you some required fields, because we've been getting a lot of inquiries from the public with no information. They just email from a random email address saying, I want to check the status of my license, and we get hundreds of emails a day. And so they don't provide first and last name. They don't provide any identifying information so we can help them. So we wanted to reduce the number of emails where the requester is not identified. So we essentially made it into a drop-down menu, and it gives you required fields to put in, and then it gives you a text box so you can explain why you are contacting the Bureau. And then we receive that once you hit submit, we will receive that in an email with everything pre-typed for us. That way we can assist you to the best of our ability. And that way we can also reduce the number of unwanted emails. But all the emails are public record, and we'd be more than happy to provide you with a list of all the company desks. But odds are, if you email, even if you use that drop-down menu, you will get a reply from the actual company desk and not from a random. You will get an auto reply, but if someone wants to contact you, they will contact you from the dedicated company email address. So you're always going to have that one-on-one interaction either way.
Is there a direct link, so that way individuals don't have to go through the website? They could just put it into their browser bar and go directly to that? Do you know?
Well, we can straight up give you the email addresses if you'd like, and then you can. That's the only other option. You just contact them directly via the email address if you do not want to go through the drop-down menu, at least for companies.
No, I'm saying
sense?
that the drop-down menu I think is perfect. Is there a direct link to that ability?
Oh, yes, I can. We don't have the public chat option right now, but I can, once we can connect that, and I can copy and paste the link. But it's right up on our website called Contact Us. And I can spell out the URL. It's bsis.ca.gov/webapps/contact.php.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm scrolling down. I don't see anybody else's, excuse me, I don't see anybody else's hand raised at this point. So I will go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. Just FYI for the members of the public that are here, we will take all questions at the end. Agenda item number 12. And it says public comment on items not on the agenda, but that is sort of a catch-all for all of our agenda items. So we'll get through the presentation and then take questions. So moving on to our next agenda item, number 7. This is update on the Bureau's enforcement unit. So our Deputy Chief of Enforcement, Sam Stadolsky, will be making this presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So it's been, pretty busy year for enforcement. Starting with our disciplinary review unit, we had, as most of you are aware, we had to implement AB 2138. That was a bill that kind of limited our discretion as far as reviewing backgrounds and criminal histories. So once that was passed, it also provided some framework in which for us to work with. So we had to put some policies and procedures in place. We had to get some, job aids out for staff and do staff training on how to go about reviewing rap sheets and, knowing what they can and cannot deny for. So we got that implemented. So far, it's working out well. The only thing I would say is that in some cases, the review may take a little longer because we have to do a little more research. The penal code isn't always the most user-friendly. So some of the cross-references, it gets really tricky trying to figure out some of these backgrounds. So, but that part's working out. Our complaint resolution unit, staff mediated over 600 consumer complaints last year. They achieved $190,000 in savings for consumers. So they did a great job this last fiscal year. They also really helped us with the abridged investigations. One of the things we've been really trying to focus on are those PPO licenses that are suspended for not having insurance, or any license type that's on a suspension. We want to see if they're actually still operating. So we kind of created that quick process to go through and see if there's anything we can find that shows that maybe they are operating. And in doing that, we've been able to, catch those that are essentially still operating because they don't want to pay the insurance, so they're trying to fly under the radar. So that's been really helpful. It's been allowing us to clear out, a lot of the list of those that we have, because we still have a high number of licensees that are suspended. So we've been working on that. And then enforcement, it was kind of a tough year when you look at most of our enforcement staff travel. They're out in the field, they're meeting with licensees, they're doing inspections, they're investigating complaints. And, come March, they were, basically grounded. So enforcement really worked on clearing out a lot of their inspections they've been working on. They did some virtual inspections with licensees, and they actually completed 269 inspections, which is substantially higher than previous fiscal years. So They did a really good job. They also have been working towards reducing their investigation cycle time. You know, it's been coming down, you know, as we work with staff and as they're out doing what they're supposed to do. We've got that cycle time down to an average of about 111 days from start to finish on an investigation, which is pretty good. I mean, they're keeping it under 4 months, and that's our target goal. So that part's working out well. Also, you know, looking at the number of citations we issued last fiscal year, about 40% of them were for unlicensed activity. So they're definitely making that a focus point with all of their the complaints that they receive, the tips that they receive. For those of you in the industry, keep sending them because they're following up on them. And then lastly, I shared with the committee before, we've been in the process of trying to reclassify one of our AGPAs to a special investigator position so that we have a little more teeth when it comes to going out in the field. A special investigator would be able to participate on stings and sweeps with law enforcement. And that's something that those communities have reached out and asked us to participate in. So it's been pending for quite a while. We started the process last year. We got it cleared through DCA's HR. It had to go over to Cal HR, but then COVID hit. So as you imagine, Cal HR had to focus their attention on, you know, more important things. So our hope now is that we're kind of, you know, over that hump, and hopefully we'll find something out from them soon so that we can get that done. I think that will definitely help out our enforcement activities. And that's all I have. If anybody has questions.
Sam, this is Mark Miller. I have a question. At the beginning of your talk, you mentioned a bill, AB something. What was that?
AB 2138.
And did that, okay, I see it on the agenda. Okay, so could you just give a very brief, that's been passed, right?
Correct.
Or, okay, could you just give a brief overview on what that does? That's part of the adjudication process, is it?
So AB 2138 made some changes to the provisions of law that we use when we decide whether or not we can or should deny a license. So the reference on the agenda, I believe, is with the substantial relationship criteria. So 2138, what they did was they narrowed the scope in which a border bureau can deny a license. We used to have very broad discretion. You know, we would, you know, we could deny somebody because they have, you know, a 20 years worth of criminal convictions, but this one sets out specific areas of where you can. So for a felony, it can't be, you know, if it's more than 7 years out, then you can't deny for it unless it's one of the specified violent felonies, which cross-references into another section of the penal code, and it's very long and elaborate. So the idea behind 2138 was that people with criminal histories could still become licensed. And for the most part, the rules of how it's structured was kind of what we generally followed anyway. So it wasn't as you know, hard of a shift, I guess you could say. It really just sets the parameters in which we can actually deny a license.
So it didn't have a dramatic impact.
Well, you know, a couple things on that. You know, at the time we looked at it and we said, I'm sure this is going to increase the amount of applicants who are applying with the rap sheet, because now they figured, well, hell, before maybe I couldn't get licensed, now maybe I can. Problem with that is we can't measure that. We don't know what that could look like. So far, we haven't really noticed it. So, you know, as it goes along, we'll be able to see, you know, next year if it's increased workload. But for the most part, it does take some of the historical aspect out of it. I mean, if you look at somebody's criminal history and say they have, you know, a slew of felonies and misdemeanors, you know, every other year type of deal, a lot of times we would rather deny them out of an abundance of caution and have them actually go in front of the disciplinary review committee and let that committee kind of meet them, feel them out, and then give them a license. All we have to work off of is a rap sheet, and sometimes you get rap sheets that look pretty scary. Doesn't mean the person necessarily is a horrible person and shouldn't be licensed, but with AB 2138, it took away some of that discretion to where now, if it's more than 7 years old and it's not one of those violent felonies, then we can't deny them.
Good. Thank you, Sam.
All right, and then I see a couple of folks have their hands up, so I'm going to call Frank Huntington.
Thank you, Chief. Sam, you mentioned 40% of the citations were for unlicensed activity. Can you give a real quick breakdown as to which industries those were about?
I don't have that right in front of me, but I can definitely follow up with you guys on that. I can get that information.
Okay, thank you.
And Brian Boglin.
Just really quick for clarification off of the the license denial guideline that you guys are operating with. Outside of felonies and the kind of parameters that you just talked about, I thought there, and I know me and you have discussed this a few different times, but just for clarification, isn't there also a clause where if it's substantially related to the licensing work, you can deny the license? So let's say if it's fraud, you could, and they're going into finance or something like that, that type of a situation. Can you just kind of talk to that one piece?
So with any of the denial criteria, it always has to be substantially related to the duties of the license. For a security industry, whether it's alarm, anything under PI, private security, I mean, you have kind of a broad spectrum of what would be considered substantially related. I mean, anything from theft, anything that's violent, obviously. So that part's always been there. I mean, there are certain offenses that we wouldn't deny for because you wouldn't consider that substantially related to the qualifications of the license. But, as I said, with security in general, I'd say there's a larger number of offenses that would be substantially related than ones that wouldn't be. That makes sense.
It does, but I mean, I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is outside of I believe it's 4 years now. I know that the BSIS back, before all this happened, used to go all the way back to juvenile records. If let's just use a specific example, if somebody was convicted for breaking and entering, but it was 10 years ago, and then they wanted a ACE to work in the alarm industry, could that be denied or not under that bill?
Under the provisions of 2138 now, the way the law has changed. So we wouldn't, in the past, we wouldn't have gone back to juvenile records. We may see it on a rap sheet if they didn't have it sealed. But for the most part, I don't think in the past we were denying for juvenile offenses. But if you have a break-in and entry that's 10 years old, we're not going to be able to deny for that under the current provisions because it's more than 7 years out. The only crimes that we can deny for that are more than 7 years old are those that are classified as violent felonies. There's a whole list in the penal code that lists out all of those things that are considered violent felonies. Like one of them is burglary, but it has to be felony burglary. So in those instances, we have to go through the penal code and say, okay, does this offense rise to the level of one that we can deny on if it's more than 7 years old?
Okay, thank
Does that
you.
answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, and I see Phil's hand up as well. Phil?
Yes, Phil here. I'm just wondering. I've gotten a lot of students who apparently had prior records, and wanted to know if they qualify or not. Is there a list that I can give or give information on as to what are the denials for getting a guard card and a firearm?
So we don't publish a list of specified crimes that would or would not result in denial. And part of that is because we look at the criminal record in its entirety. Given now with the parameters that we have, it's a little, it's restricted us a bit in that regard. But there isn't like a set list out there of what would be approved or what would not be approved. For firearms, obviously, you have to have a firearms clearance from DOJ. So if they have any prohibits on the record or anything like that, it would automatically disqualify them from having a firearms permit. But for the most part, as I always tell people, if you have a criminal history, if you've gotten past it, submit an application. Worst things worse, you go in front of the disciplinary review committee and they can decide to issue you a license. So there are definitely options for people that have a background. So I wouldn't say that, they shouldn't apply.
And hi, Phil, this is Lynn. I just wanted to jump in and say that the review process at BSIS for folks with background issues is not automated. Every single background that pops up on our list here as something to look at is reviewed by several levels of folks here. So, and like Sam said, individual circumstances are taken into account. So, yeah.
So it's a good thing then for me to continue for them to write a description of what their situation was, and then possibly get the court records so they can attach to their application.
I'll let Sam answer that one.
Absolutely. If somebody is applying and they know they have a background and they have any, mitigating evidence, any evidence of rehabilitation that they would like to attach to their application, they can definitely send that in. Staff will be able to look at that when they do their reviews. One area parameter that I could tell you is, like I said, with the felonies, if they have felonies that are more than 7 years old, if they're not, considered a violent felony, then we wouldn't be able to deny for it. And when it comes to misdemeanors, we usually look around that 3-year mark. If it's been more than 3 years on a misdemeanor and it's not a violent misdemeanor, then, we're more inclined to issue on that. But again, we look at it in its totality. And like I said, you can definitely attach any sort of evidence of rehabilitation you want to attach to it. One thing I forgot to note that 2138 did do was we used to be able to deny a license or a criminal conviction even if it had been dismissed per the penal code, so the 1203.4 dismissals and all of that. We can no longer do that anymore. So if somebody has had their conviction dismissed via 1203.4 of the penal code, we cannot deny it. So that's an important thing I forgot to note.
Does that include expungement?
That's usually what it is. It's 1203.4 and I think 1203.3 of the penal code. There's a couple sections there. But yeah, basically it's expungement.
Okay, so they have to reveal that as well.
Well, if they have a history, and they've gone in and had it 1203.4 and they have a copy of that, they should attach that to their application also, because it may not show up on the rap sheet. Right. We receive rap sheets from DOJ. Sometimes they'll be updated and have that information, and sometimes they don't.
Right, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Chief, I had one other question. Sorry, that's why my hand stopped.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sam, so on that bill, I remember I spoke with Antoine about this, that there was also another piece in there that discussed that the state boards could no longer deny a license for falsification of information. And I know previously there was question 10 on the ACE applications that basically the person had to offer up that whether they've been convicted of a crime or not, that was what let them be provisionally licensed until they got the word back from the Bureau. And I know because of that, there was talk about removing question 10 from the ACE application. I have not done an ACE application in quite some time, so can you speak to that at all and what the current state is on that?
So this is something that we went back and forth with between, our legislative office with DCA Legal, because we had, concerns about that as far as that question. And with the overall, big picture, I guess you could say, the conviction question is being removed from all applications. And even with, and Antoine, I think you're on there. Do you remember the threshold that we had on which ones could and couldn't have the conviction question?
Yeah, essentially all the conviction questions have been removed from all of the applications except for the alarm company agent application. However, even though they're still on the ACE application, it's still an optional. So even if somebody technically does not answer those truthfully, we don't really have any say in that because of the provisions in Section 480 of the BNP code. It's just that the way that the Alarm Act is phrased, technically, the criminal history disclosure or the conviction questions have to be on there, but they have to be optional. And refusing to disclose them will not be a factor in the Bureau's decision to issue or deny a license. So it's more of a technicality, but you can pretty much say that we're not allowed to ask for conviction questions anymore on any of our applications. So they've been removed from all of the applications except for that one technicality under the alarm company agent application.
Thanks, Antoine.
Okay, and this is Lynn. Just to, I think, finish up this agenda item, I do want to point out that I believe one of the questions earlier was, has this had a dramatic impact on our licensing process and enforcement process? And I will broaden that to say it's had a pretty broad impact to those who are trying to get their foot in the door and have a less than perfect past. BSIS is one of the more accepting boards and bureaus for folks who are really trying to get into the professional world, and we're really proud of that. Our threshold to become licensed is fairly accessible to most people, and AB 2138 is helping in that process. So to the extent that we have folks who have become licensed who would not have been able to in the past, it's something that we're pretty proud of. So that's the end of agenda item 7. I don't see any other hands raised at this point. So I am going to move on to agenda item number 8, which is update on legislation impacting the Bureau and the private security industries. And this is going to be presented by Antoine Hodge, our policy unit manager, and I will kick it over to him.
All right, so it'll be kind of a brief overview. These are all bills that have been chaptered and signed, and so they'll all be effective January 1, 2021. The first one is Assembly Bill 2471 by Assemblymember Mainshine. And so this one would extend the period of time to cancel an alarm system contract from 3 to 5 business days if the buyer is a senior citizen as defined, and it's for contracts or offers to purchase that are entered into after January 1, 2021, pursuant to sections 1689.6 and 1689.7 of the Civil Code. Those are the two sections that delineate essentially what the notice of cancellation verbiage needs to say. The next one is AB 2759. This one would extend the time to reinstate an expired true possession agency license from 3 to 10 years, and will also allow an immediate family member Also, as specified in the bill, in the case of the death of a repossession agency licensee who is licensed as a sole proprietor or as an individual, it'll allow that immediate family member to continue the business under the same license number and business name, only if they are only if they submit a written request to us and another initial application to us within 120 days following the death of the licensee. SB 1474. This bill authorizes the DCA boards and bureaus to take disciplinary action against the licensee if the licensee fails to comply with an order of abatement within 30 days. It also extends the authority of a private investigator licensee to be structured as a limited liability company to January 1st, 2024. So this is very usual. Every 4 years, they usually extend the sunset provisions for PI LLCs. And then lastly, the bill prohibits a licensee from including a provision in a contract or a proposed contract that would limit the consumer's ability to file a complaint with a DCI board or bureau or participate in an investigation into the licensee. Assembly Bill 2113. The bill would require DCA boards and bureaus to expedite the initial licensure process for an applicant who provides evidence that they have been admitted to the U.S. as a refugee or have been granted political asylum or have a special immigrant visa, also as specified in the bill. And the very last one, SB 878, requires DCA boards and bureaus to display application processing timeframes, also as specified on our website, at least on a quarterly basis. We already pretty much do that, except that we don't show the average, but we will so essentially show you the current processing timeframes, but we don't show you what the average has been. But we are working with DCA to implement this bill starting January 1, 2021. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm checking. I don't see anybody's hand up. Let me just look really quickly. Okay. Yep. All right. Your explanations were so awesome, Antoine, that nobody has any questions on that. Thank you.
Yes,
All
and
right.
I just want to add that this will be, those summaries will be published if they haven't already. I don't think we'll publish them on the website yet, but we will usually publish them before the beginning of the year under our enacted legislation page under About Us.
Okay. Thank you, Antoine. Agenda item number 9, which is update on enacted or pending regulations. So I know this, from feedback I've gotten, this is going to be one of those agenda items that is going to have a great deal of public interest. So what we'll do is we will take public comment on this agenda item. So after we call for comments and questions from the advisory committee members, we will kick it open to the public to have them ask questions as well. Again, Antoine will be presenting on this agenda item.
Okay, so the first item is essentially as a result of AB 2138, which is the bill that we've been discussing on the enforcement side, but in particular, the bill required us to put in regulations the substantial relationship criteria, and then that we have to consider when denying a license, or the criteria for evaluating rehabilitation. So when somebody does say that they've been rehabilitated, what does the Bureau actually look for in those? And if you go on our website under About Us as well, there's proposed regulations on the bottom of the page, and you can read through the initial statement of reasons that we published, as well as the modified text of the regulations. But essentially, we already have those in regulations. It just was not specific enough, and so we just delineated, for example, for the purposes of denying or suspending or revoking a license, these are the criteria or the substantial relationship criteria that we take into effect, which is pretty much, the nature and the gravity of the offense, the number of years that have elapsed since the date of the offense, and then the nature and the duties of the profession in which the applicant seeks licensure. So that's the substantially related criteria part. And then the criteria for evaluating rehabilitation as well, we kind of just made it more robust because the bill required us to do so. Again, we've, in this particular instance, we've been acting in spirit of AB 2138 anyway, but it's always good to make our criteria more robust via regulations. And so you can take a look at the modified text. All of this has been noticed properly to the public, and we didn't receive a whole lot of public comments during the public period. But if you right now, they're still on their way to the Office of Administrative Law, so they're not necessarily effective yet. But we will definitely put out an email blast once they are effective. The next one is the badge and patch criteria. This is more of kind of a heads up to the industry that we're looking into this. We do not have any official language that's been presented to the public yet. It's more of internal discussions that we want to have. And it's pretty much because we don't have any regulations right now to describe this process. And so it's just kind of a way for us to make it more robust, to ease probably 90% of folks' minds. We're not going to necessarily be doing any differently than what we're doing right now. We just wanted to make sure that the criteria that we have is set in stone in regulation. That way we can streamline our processes here internally and be able to hold everybody accountable and for everybody to be on the same playing field. The next one is Section 100. These are essentially just, it's a cleanup regulation. This one does not even get notice to the public. And we essentially fix typos, grammatical issues, any kind of updates to the law that do not provide any substantive change to our regulations. And it's just kind of general cleanup. The last one is regarding SB 385. This one has not been noticed, but it will be noticed, and the public will have a 45-day public comment period on this as well when it does go through. But essentially it is the Bureau's way to recoup the cost of the private investigator pocket card, which came as a result of SB 385 from last year or a couple of years ago. And this one will only be so far $4. That's the cost that the Bureau is going to be taking on. Right now, I believe the cost to the industry members is $5 out of pocket, but the bill required us to collect that fee through the application fee. And so this is just a way for us to add that $4 fee onto the application fee for a pocket card. And that's it as far as regulations.
Thanks, Antoine. So just to give sort of a 10,000-foot explanation of regulations versus legislation, we can enact regulations on our own if we see a need, and we can also quite often, if a substantial bill has been passed in the legislature, like AB 2138, we, in all the other boards and bureaus and entities, government entities that are affected by that, have to draft regulations explaining to the public and putting down in writing how we are going to implement it. So quite often there are legislative regulations, and then there are sort of self-developed regulations. So there's two types that we're discussing today. So I'll open it up for questions to our advisory committee members first. And I'm not seeing any. Not seeing any raised hands. Okay. Oh, Mark Miller, go ahead.
Hi, Chief. Okay, so on these proposed regulations, is there opportunity for industry to, participate in discussion on them, or how will that all, what's the process?
No, absolutely. There's the good thing with regulations is that it has to go through a public notice process, a public engagement process, public comment process. So all of these regulations, I'm not sure, I'll have Antoine speak specifically to certain regs. If you have a question on one specifically, because I'm not sure where they all are in the process at the moment. But yeah, the beauty of regulation is that there's, sorry, go ahead, Antoine.
Yeah, I was going to say the only one that was noticed so far, again, was the AB 2138, and the public comment period for that one closed a long time ago. So now they're pretty much pending approval with the Office of Administrative Law. The rest have not been noticed to the public, but they will be once the language is completed. And the process is fairly simple. We notice those regulations to the public. We give you a 45-day public comment period. And then we take these comments. If we see that there is a change that needs to be done to the text, then we make those changes. And then I believe we have to notice them for another 20 days with a modified text. That way we provide another 20-day public comment period for folks. We have to essentially respond to every one of those public comments and explain our, it's called, the first initial statement of reasons. We explain exactly that, our statement of reasons behind those regulations. So, and all of that will be noticed via mail. If you want to subscribe to those, you can go on our website, on our main page. There's on the right hand, there's a widget that says subscribe to BSIS email alerts. I should change that because that page also allows you to subscribe for proposed regulation notices only via mail. And so it'll allow you to not just get the email blast, but also we will mail you a packet of the initial statement of reasons as well as the proposed regulations text via U.S. mail. It's a very transparent process. Once those are noticed and the public period begins, everybody gets those texts via email or via U.S. mail in a timely fashion.
Good, thank you.
Hi, Brian. I see your hand up.
Hey, Chief, is there any updates on the that pocket card process that we've talked about on and off for last year or so?
You're talking about the private investigator pocket card?
Right, the one that ACOs are looking at basically jumping onto that process as well. I think the last time we spoke, you guys were working with potentially with the DMV for pictures. I think that was kind of the big mountain to climb.
Yeah, so that is something that is actually agenda item number 10, Brian. So no, that's quite all right. I understand this is a big one for us too. So one of the things that I had heard from behind the scenes from our security guard friends and partners is concern over the badge and patch criteria. Really, I just wanted to say that this is just going to sort of memorialize our guidelines that we have on our website right now. We don't want to ever be accused of doing underground regs. So these guidelines that we have been following, it more or less, and I obviously, don't hold me to this, but more or less that's what we're looking at in drafting regulations. And so it's nothing new. It's nothing that that we have, a huge sea change in our practices, but we do want to memorialize them in regs and, make sure that everybody's on the same page and our expectations are clear for approving badge and patches. The big issue that we have with the badge and patch approval process is a lot of the private patrol operators or security guard companies like their badge and patches to resemble law enforcement badge and patches. And that's a big no-no. So we that's our, I think, probably one of our biggest problems that we have with badge and patch approval. The other big problem we have is apparently everybody likes the state seal of Illinois. It's an eagle. It's a very, regal looking eagle holding a red ribbon. And we also frown upon using imagery from other state or government entities for badge and patches. And for some reason, the state seal of Illinois is a popular go-to. So, it's just things like that. And, if there's, I think what I'll do now, if there's no other questions from our committee members, is I will open it up to questions from the public. And I think our moderator is going to be handling that, Tricia.
Yes, this is the moderator, and at the request of the Bureau, I will open up the question and answer feature. So if you would like to make a public comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to all panelists using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. If you are not seeing the Q&A panel, go ahead and click on the question mark within a square at the bottom of your screen. We are displaying instructions for your reference. And just a note, members of the public, please don't use the raised hand feature when it's time for public comment. We will open up the Q&A panel, but we won't call on you if you raise a hand. So if you have a comment, just click on your hand icon to lower it, and then you can type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to all panelists. We will be unmuting people in the order that they submit their requests. And already we have an individual identified as Shane Clary that would like to make a comment. So Shane, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. And Shane, you've been unmuted.
Thank you very much. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And thank you to the chief and to the panelists. I have two questions. The first is related to the Section 100. Is that an assumption that is Section 100 in Division 7, Title 16?
Yes, that is correct. It's only for the Bureau regs.
Okay, thank you. And then secondly, on the badge question, is this badges that are used by those that are responding to alarms, such as alarm agents, or is it also for badges that may be used for those individuals that are providing inspection of fire alarm systems and sprinkler systems in accordance with Title 19 of the California Code of Regulations?
Yeah, right now, to my understanding from our internal discussions, is that we're only going to be focusing on the private patrol operator badge and patch criteria because it's our most significant population. There are no talks about any other industry just now.
Okay, even though they work for a, because in that case they would be working under the provisions of the C10 for fire alarms. So the BSIS would have no to reach at that. Would have no, I guess, reach at that time. Correct? If that's a proper word.
That's correct. So it would be for any guards working for private patrol operators. So when so it's that's going to be the catch. It's just employees of private patrol operators.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Moderator, you can put me back on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. And next we'll go to David Chandler. David, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. All right, David, you've been unmuted.
Oh, good morning. Thank you. And good morning, Bureau Chief and members of the advisory board. My name is David Chandler. I'm the president for CalSaga, the industry representing security companies in California. First off, I'd like to thank the Bureau and all their hard work during the pandemic at the beginning. We had a lot of requests for guard card applications. The chief and the Bureau stepped up and put all hands on deck and got those licenses out as quick as possible. And that really truly helped our industry and put people to work. So I just want to acknowledge the Bureau Chief for doing that. We really do appreciate it. And my only other comment is we look forward to working with the Bureau, with Antoine and the Bureau Chief on the badge and patch regulation, because we have a lot of interest coming when they saw the agenda for today's meeting. So it sounds pretty reasonable, but we do look forward to working with you. And thank you, all your board members, for serving in that position. It's a great position to be in, and have a great day.
Thank you, David. And our next request for public comment is from William Wright. William, I'll let you know when you've been unmuted. Okay, William, you've been unmuted.
Okay, just a comment, if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent, thank you. You were commenting about badges and patches and how some PPOs were gravitating towards badges that resembled those used by law enforcement. I would suggest, if not as an official position, maybe as a suggestion to put out into the industry towards a 5-point star. If I recall correctly, it's not widely used by law enforcement in California. I don't think I've ever seen it being used by any public sector agency.
Yes, hi. This is the chief. Right. There's always a 5-point star versus a 7-point star, and that is an angle that we are familiar with, and we will be looking at. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
All right, this is a moderator, and that is the end of requests for public comment. Would you like me to go ahead and close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. I will do so. It's been closed.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 10, which is the update regarding the private investigator pocket cards. So I will have Antoine. This is the Antoine Haas show today, apparently. So I will have him give us a little update on our efforts in that field.
Yes. So our efforts with the DMV were not fruitful for this year, unfortunately. But it's not something that we're going to stop pursuing. But for now, we are in talks with PSI, who is the current vendor for the cards. And we worked on a brand new design for the cards that is cleaner, better looking and everything, and more professional looking. We are still gonna launch only for the private investigators. The process will not change a whole lot, except for a couple of things. Right now, the PIs have to pay their fee to PSI directly. We're going to be running a regulations package that I mentioned earlier that would tack that fee onto the application, just as the bill requires us to do. And so we're working on streamlining the process. Meaning, if you are already, say, a qualified manager, you already have a photo in place in the PSI system, you don't necessarily have to go back and take a photo again. We'll be able to internally open up a call essentially to PSI via Breeze that will send them your information, and they'll mail you out a picture ID because you already have a photo on file. We're still essentially talking with PSI about all of these efficiencies. That way, folks don't necessarily have to go back and forth into the PSI centers to take their photo. And the photo should be good for 10 years. So, even with the renewals, your photo should be good for 10 years. You shouldn't have to worry about going back and retaking your picture in there. And that's pretty much what we have right now. It's essentially brand new design and just talking to PSI about how to best optimize our system and streamline the process and make it, seamless for the PIs to be able to get their photo cards, especially that most of them will likely have their photos in the system already. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's just kind of discussing how we can leverage all of that so that it's a seamless transition for the PIs. And that will be our essentially pilot population because it's in statute right now. But we are looking at expanding this for the rest of the licensees as well in the future if this goes smoothly. So we're going to have to apologize to the PIs for any hiccups that may come as a result of it, but we will work on streamlining the process.
Yeah, hi, this is the chief again. I did want to explain a little bit more about what Antoine said about DMV earlier. We were working with DMV to dip into their photo database because that's obviously the gold standard of photo IDs. We're still in discussions with them, but because the deadline is approaching so quickly and working with DMV has taken a while, we ended up going back to our current vendor and, we emphasized to them that we want a quality product that does not peel or delaminate. And they've promised to do that, to step up to the plate for this. So we're hopeful that what is going to come out of this is a nice ID, a lasting ID, and one that the PIs will be happy with. So, we'll be keeping up our engagement with our PI stakeholders on this issue moving forward. So, and then what I think I will do is to just clear out public discussion after each agenda item is call for public comment after each item for the rest of the agenda. So if you have questions on this agenda item, please let us know. Oh, you know what? Sorry, I apologize. I've got to call the advisory committee members first, and Frank Huntington has a question. So I will call on Frank.
Thank you, Chief. And you kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. Our biggest concern with PSI has always been the quality of the pictures, not necessarily them coming unlaminated, but the pictures themselves. It's like they were printed on, binder paper and faded after about 2 weeks. So as long as PSI can guarantee the Bureau they're going to do a quality job, and we just don't get a repeat of the same picture IDs we've had over the last 20 years, I think we'll be fine with that. But if we have those same issues, then I think I'm just hoping you guys can get some quality assurance from PSI.
Thanks for that question, Frank. Yes, we were quite honest with them. And we said, the feedback we've gotten from our licensees is that your product is really substandard and they are not happy with it. And we didn't mince words, and we were very, very frank with them. So they've promised that they will step up. We are working with them, and Antoine's team is working with them very closely on the design, the thickness, the quality. So, our fingers are crossed too, that it will result in a higher quality product.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And Antoine, if I can give you any assistance, please reach out to me.
Will do. Thank you so much.
All right. Brian, I see your hand up.
So is it my understanding that this is the current process that's going on with PSI is no longer going to be an optional piece for ACEs that would want it like it was before?
Actually, we part of our talks. So the PIs have to get this pocket card. Other license types like ACEs and security guards have the option, but they will be getting the same upgrades. But the other licensees still have to pay for those at the PSI Center because we're essentially focused on implementing SB 385 and being able to meet that deadline with the best quality first. But that new design will be for all of the licensees that now have the option to get that pocket card.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking at, it doesn't look like, oh, Phil Sacheray.
Thank you, Chief. I just wanted to find out whether this card, the pocket card, expires or not, or do we have to renew? And is there a duplicate or what you call replacement card if you lose it?
Yes. So the plan is to issue you a pocket card after every single initial and renewal. You will receive it in the mail, and then yes, you will be able to request a duplicate. That duplicate will be requested from BSIS as well. I do believe that transaction is online on Breeze on the user end, so you'll be able to request a duplicate there or request it via mail as well. And again, instead of paying PSI, you'll be paying BSIS.
Okay, and then also now I have an old card that was done years ago, so that becomes invalid when this new card comes out then.
Phil, this is specifically for private investigators. Are you also a PI? Do you wear many hats?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I am. I've been a licensed guard as well as an alarm agent, as well as I am currently a private investigator.
Wow, that is fabulous. I didn't know that. That is awesome.
Well, that's what happens after you retire from law enforcement.
Well, bravo. We need more licensees like you.
Thank you. Thanks for the answer, Chief.
All right, no problem. Okay, and I'm scrolling through. I don't see any other. Oh, no, I don't see any other hands. Phil, I think we answered your question. Your hand is still up, but I think we answered your question. Okay, I think we can kick it open to the public now.
All right, this is the moderator, and I will go ahead and open up the Q&A feature. And we are currently displaying instructions for your reference. So if you would like to make a comment, please type. So don't type your question, but just type, I would like to make a comment, send it to all panelists, and then we will unmute you in the order that you make your requests. And we'll give you a moment to access the feature. This is the moderator, and I see Ron typed a question. Ron, if you could just type, I would like to make a comment. If you would like to make a comment at this time, and then send it to all panelists. All right, so his question was answered. So at this time, we have no requests for public comment. So shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yep, if all the questions have been answered, go ahead and close it.
Okay, I will do so. It's been closed.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 11. Before I introduce this agenda item, I do want to introduce a couple of folks who have kindly called into this to help us make our discussion a little more informed and robust. This is agenda item number 11, discussion regarding potential legislative update to the use of force and potential update of powers to arrest training manual. This is obviously a hot button issue now. Security guards do not have, although we have some issues on use of force, I can say thankfully it is not similar to law enforcement, and that parallel is not there, but we do recognize that we need some reforms in this area. So assisting us in this is Assemblymember Holden's office. We have his Chief of Staff, Willie Armstrong, here on the call, and I believe we also have another staffer, Naima Ford, who is an attendee. So Willie, I want to say thank you for coming in today. If you want to introduce yourself, say a few words about Assemblymember Holden's interest in this. Willie, we can't hear you, unfortunately. I see that you're off mute, but we can't hear you. So when you're able to jump in, just go ahead and feel free, and I'll just keep on talking in the meantime. So what Assemblymember Holden is doing is helping us with legislation that would allow us to update our powers to arrest training manual. And when Willie is able to weigh in, we can take, hear from him on his boss's interest in this. But essentially, we're going to be working together on the mandated training that all security guards must go through before they get licensed and in the months after they get licensed. So I will have Sam Stadolski, our enforcement oh, Willie, it looks like you're up and running.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you clearly.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lynn, for giving us the opportunity to be with you all today. Yes, use of force standards and policies. It's definitely an area that Assemblymember Holden is interested in. As you all may recall, there was an incident back in July of 2019 regarding Mario Matthews and the incident that happened at the Golden One Center. And after reading several articles, we found that there was a lack of a use of force standard as it relates to private security. This was of particular interest to us, obviously, because of the incident involving George Floyd, where there was a peace officer that had his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And it's interesting because the same situation applied to Mr. Matthews. A private security officer had his knee on his neck for about 4.5 minutes. So one of the things that we talked to BSIS about, as well as DCA, is the idea that police reform is a hot button topic right now going on in the legislature. We have a brand new 2-year cycle that's coming up, and so there's going to be a lot of conversation regarding police reform. But we also wanted to use this opportunity to see if we could work with BSIS as well as Department of Consumer Affairs to see if we can't tighten up the standards for use of force as it relates to private security. So we're trying to work in a dual track fashion in terms of dealing with police reform as well as looking at private security and seeing if there's anything that our office can do to support your efforts. Did you have any questions for me? And I think our Ledge Director, Naima Ford, is on as well, just as a FYI.
This is the moderator, and I'm happy to unmute Naima, so I can do that in case she has any additions. Naima, you've been unmuted. This is the moderator. She's been unmuted, but I'm not hearing her, so she might. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think there's something going on with these computers where you can log on, you can hear the discussion, but for whatever reason, it continues to say, at least on my computer, that a microphone is not detected. But in other meetings, it's detected. And so I don't know if that's part of my laptop, if it's something that I'm not clicking in terms of the system. But did you all have any questions?
This is Sam Sadowski. I'm filling in for Lynn for a few moments. Are there any members of the committee that have questions for our presenter? All right, Phil? I see your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, when is this thing going to take place? Because it says potential legislative updates.
Yes, this is Willie Armstrong. Right now, we're in the process of drafting language. In researching sort of the code sections as it relates to private security, we are aware that in instances where private security is on school campuses and things like that, obviously BSIS works with POST as it relates to training and things of that nature. So we wanted to sort of figure out if there's a low-cost, effective way to sort of mirror perhaps some of the training that peace officers receive as it relates to use of force standards and things like that, or to see if there's some sort of off-ramp that can be offered through POST, obviously in consultation with BSIS. Just want obviously we're looking at introducing this perhaps around December, so we're looking at less than 90 days, looking at least introducing the legislation, and then obviously the first committee hearing wouldn't be until March. But I want to make one thing clear from Mr. Holden's standpoint, Assemblymember Holden. We're not trying to do a got you. We're not trying to twist arms. We really want to make the system better. And so that's why he's committed to working with BSIS and Department of Consumer Affairs to see. Obviously, we know that they can't weigh in terms of taking a support opposed position. But if there's things that we can do to help make private security better for all Californians, then that's what he's committed to do. So any feedback, any suggestions that you can offer us would be extremely, extremely appreciated.
Yes, I would like to get in on that as well, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about this in the near future.
Okay, so I'm coordinating with BSIS in terms of they're usually my point of contact in terms of if I have questions or something. I don't know, Lynn, how you would arrange that, or if that's something that I would have to do offline,
oh no, Willie, we'll be happy to play intermediary here and set up I guess in this day and time probably another virtual meeting such as this. When things get a little farther on down, it's still really in the concept phase right now. Right. But yes, aggressive stakeholder outreach is going to be part of our efforts here.
Okay. And like I said, we're not trying to we're not trying to play gotcha. We really just want to figure out how we can help you all do your jobs better, and obviously ensure public safety.
Yeah, and I really want to thank Willie and his boss for being so easy to work with on this, and it's really been great to have a legislative partner in this, and so far everything is going really well. I think Assemblymember Holden's office has bent over backwards in trying to understand the point of view that our stakeholders have and the Bureau has, and I really think good things are going to come from this partnership here.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, I'm looking to see if anybody else has, it doesn't look like any other committee members have any questions at this point. So what I will do is open it up to public comment at this point.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the request of the Bureau, I am opening up the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a comment, please type, "I would like to make a comment," and submit it to all panelists using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We are displaying instructions for your reference. This is the moderator, and we have an individual identified as Shane that would like to make a comment. So Shane, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. All right, Shane, you've been unmuted.
Okay, thank you. I'm just confirming you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is Shane Clary, representing the California Alarm Association. And just to clarify, and I may have missed it, and if I did, I apologize. Is this revision just for the patrol operators, or would also be across the board for alarm agents as well?
Hi, this is Lynn. Thanks for the question, Shane. No, this is just for security guards.
Okay, thank you very much. And Madam Moderator, you can remute me at this time.
All right, thank you. And I'm just checking to see if we have any other comments. And yes, we have a request from Conrad. So Conrad, I will let you know when you've been unmuted. Hold on just a moment. All right, Conrad, you've been unmuted.
Hello, mic check here.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Conrad Lafoit. Thank you for having this meeting. I'm going to ask this. It's going to sound like a question, but you don't have to answer. In regards to submitting the initial and the renewal firearm, it states when submitting the documents to provide on the initial the firearm range qualification form afterwards to provide additional paper. When submitting that, you submit the firearm range qualification training form only, and then afterwards, again, it says additional paperwork, and that's when you could put in the live scan and an additional paper that goes along with the application. Or do we put everything in one lump and put everything on the initial submission for the firearm qualification training? Same thing for the renewal. It asks for their first requal. And then you go back and you go to the additional and you add the second, third, fourth, and fifth in the firearm range qualification training form on the additional. Or do we, again, add everything in one lump sum there and submit that along with the first requal? So that was my question comment, so you don't have to respond to that. The other remark I wanted to say, or comment I wanted to state, is that thumbs up for processing veterans. I appreciate what we have done for veterans. I want to say keep up the good work for that. And that's it. Well, thank you very much. And I can be back on mute.
Thank you, Conrad. All right, so that is it as far as requests for public comment at this time.
All right. Thank you, Tricia. So I just real quick, Conrad, this is the chief. I just want to say thank you for your comments. I understand that the online process can be a little confusing, which is why we're trying to do, we've put, Q&As, frequently asked question, on our website, as well as videos, how-to videos. But while you have the entire management team of BSIS here, I will have our licensing manager answer your question. So I'm going to kick it over to Jasmine Argo.
Hi there, this is Jasmine Argo, licensing manager. And just to let you know, for an initial firearm, yes, you are correct. You just attach the range certification, but we allow that some people need to attach live scan forms, or for active duty police officers, they need to attach their post certification and proof of active duty service. So those are the additional documents that could be added, but you can't just add the one form. If you forget to add something, you can go and do a transaction that is called 8025. It is a submit additional documents. So that's something where you can add additional documents if you forget. And then regarding the renewal, the most efficient way is to put all your range qualifications, your required FQA form, which is the form that we send to Department of Justice for your background information. You could put them all in one format, one PDF, and attach it. That's the most efficient. However, again, there is that submit additional documents that you can do one at a time.
Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate the explanation. All right. I think then the next agenda item is number 12, which is public items, you know what? I see Frank's hand up. Frank, you have a question?
I did. Back to the potential future legislation regarding use of force. I know it only applies to security guards, but will that bleed into the FQ firearm qualification cards as well, which could impact private investigators? Do we know?
Right. No, we don't know as of yet. As you know, there's training required for both firearms and guards. So, we're looking at it potentially impacting anybody who takes the powers to arrest course. So, yeah. So you're right. It could be a little broader than just the guards.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Yep. And I'm always of the opinion that more training, the better. Okay, I don't see any other hands up at this point, so we're going to move on to, Willie, did you want to add anything there?
Oh, I was just going to type it out, but I have a 12 o'clock, but I just wanted to thank you all so much for allowing us to be here with you all, to get input from you all. To sort of put out there what we're trying to do. Like I said, would really love to work with you all, see if there's any way that we can be helpful. And with that, I'll just wait to hear from you all in terms of possible next steps, if that's okay.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Willie. I appreciate you and Naima's time today. Have a wonderful day.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, and moving on to agenda item number 12, which is public comment on items not on the agenda, and also public comment on items that I skipped over earlier. So that would be agenda items 1 through 7, and then any comments on items not on the agenda, we will open it up to the public at this point.
All right, this is the moderator, and the Q&A panel is available. So if you would like to make a comment on any of the items listed for future agenda items, please type, I would like to make a comment, and submit it to all panelists using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And we are displaying instructions for your reference. All right, so an individual identified as Shane would like to make a comment. So Shane, I will let you know when you have been unmuted. All right, Shane, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. And once again, confirming that you all can hear me. Okay, thank you. First, I have a couple of comments. So the first is Shane Clary representing Bay Alarm Company. And just what is, and this goes back, I believe, to agenda item number, looks like probably number 6, is what's the current processing time for a new PPO license?
Yeah. Well, that is a very good question, Shane. And the processing time for a PPO license can take a while because it is, you submit initial paperwork and then you have to, once you clear that hurdle, then you submit more paperwork and then you submit additional paperwork after that. It's a process that by its definition is deficient from the beginning because you cannot submit a completed PPO paperwork packet at once. You know, we finish something on our end, then we ask you for additional information. It is a very hard timeline to pin down because it has very high deficiency rates. It has a lot of information and a lot of back and forth, and it is an incredibly high volume desk. So months is you know, the answer I usually give when I'm asked this question, and I'm asked this question a lot. It's our target timelines in our regulations say initial licensure 125 days, but because the volume is so high, we get over 50 requests for PPO license each month. And we have about 1.5 people working that desk right now. So it's a high volume, high complexity desk. So even though our regs say 125 days, I am always hesitant on quoting that because we almost always go over.
Okay, thank you. And then Shane Clary representing the California Alarm Association. And on a couple, I was trying to get back in on agenda item number 11. So I'm wondering if I could ask one more question on the 11, or if that's been closed for the meeting.
No, by all means.
Yeah, just a follow up to your response to my initial question, just based upon your your last comment regarding that the powers of arrest course could be expanded the way I interpret it to all. So that include the ACEs that may be also going through the powers of arrest course because they're doing alarm response.
Thanks for that question. At this point, we're not exactly sure how the Assemblyman's office wants to do it, and they're the ones, driving this train right now. It could very well be integrated within the manual. The last time the Powers to Arrest manual was updated was 5 years ago. So, it's due for an update regardless. But yeah, this is something that the legislature will be taking the lead on.
Okay, and that was Assemblymember Holden, so we'll just track his bill once it's entered during the next session of the legislature of the Assembly. Yes. Next is a question on agenda item number 8, and in particular AB 2471. Do you foresee that a change within the Alarm Act also? As you know, that we were working with your office to make some changes this year, and of course because of COVID-19 that kind of got waylaid, so we'll be making that effort again at the beginning of the new session on the items that we've already have discussed. But you foresee that there'll need to be a change within the Alarm Act to bring in the requirements that are in AB 2471, because an individual that's following the Alarm Act may not be aware of the new changes that have been made because of AB 2471.
I will have Antoine jump in on this one.
Shane, can I have you please repeat the question? I didn't necessarily understand the question. Can you repeat it if you don't mind?
Okay, yeah, no problem. Again, with the passage of AB 2471, which is a 5-day right of rescission for a senior citizen, will that language also be added to the Alarm Act regulations?
No, we are not necessarily looking at a regs package for this particular bill, only because the Alarm Act, I'm pretty sure, already references the civil code sections that require the 3-day notice of cancellation. And so with that reference being already in the Alarm Act, I don't believe there would be a need for a regulations package on our end.
We are correct that in the current Alarm Act, it does mention about the 3-day right of rescission, but my fear is that there's no reference in the current Act about this new requirement of the 5-day right of rescission for a senior citizen. So an alarm operator may end up being oblivious to the new requirement for those that are a senior citizen.
Right. So I will definitely look into that comment. I am not sure to what extent we can use the authority of something that's not within our Practice Act in order to pass a regulations package to make something, to clarify a statute that's not within our Practice Act. So I will have to discuss it internally, and we will provide you with a response later on.
Okay.
But I will definitely look into the issue. I know it is, you do bring up a good point, and it is something that I actually put forward to try and amend the Alarm Act at the time, but unfortunately I was not successful in persuading the powers to be.
Okay, well, we all know about the powers to be. And then just to the chief or to you, I did at the very beginning during agenda item number, it looks like maybe 5 of the chief's comments. Will the Bureau be able to give an answer regarding AB 5 and all the subsequent changes that have been made with even the passage of another bill during this session after the election? Or are you going to be restricted from, because there's still confusion within our industry, the ABC test versus the Morello test, and if one holds both a CSLB license as opposed to a license for the BSIS, or may hold both licenses, and there still needs to be some clarification at some point.
So that's, yeah, it's completely out of our wheelhouse. It's a labor regulatory or legislative issue. So this is not something that's within our Practice Act. Additionally, we are not allowed, and it is not our role to provide legal advice on bills or legislation. So I don't think we will ever, give out any sort of opinion on this one.
Okay, that's good to know. So, and then I think I had one more, but I'm now having a senior moment here. I think, yeah, I think at this time, I think all my our points have been made. So thank you very much.
All right. And we have an individual identified as Michael Hahn that would like to make a comment. So Michael, I'll let you know when you're unmuted. Michael, you've been unmuted.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm Michael Hahn. I represent both Elite University Security and API Academy. I'd like to thank you guys for all the work you've done during this craziness that we've had. I've got a couple of questions, and I apologize. It may have been covered. I had some computer issues on the use of force. And I guess that's being done on a legislative level. Do you guys have a bill number or anything that I can already start looking at?
Hi there, this is Lynn, the chief. No, there's no bill number yet. It's all in the initial discussion phases. There's some drafts that are floating around, but that's not for the public yet. It's just something that the Assembly Member's Office was kind enough to share with us to get our opinion on, and it's already been marked up, and it's going to go through a number of versions and iterations before they're able to introduce it. The timeline for the legislature is they go back into session in December and then immediately take a break for a month. And so my guess is that it probably won't be until sometime in January, possibly, before we actually see language. But again, that is out of our hands. That is entirely up to Assembly Member Holden.
Okay, thank you very much. Another one I'm running into is with some of my students is, as a matter of fact, I got one right now, the assessments exams. I guess that the person called me, told me that they had been trying to get their assessment. They got an email that their assessment's available, but they can't seem to get to it, and they called down to business and said that this is no longer sending out a letter that they're cleared for the assessment. Or is this true, not true? Don't have a clue.
I'm so sorry. What was that again? You cut out just a little bit there. If you could repeat that about the assessment, I'll have one of our managers step in and answer that.
Sure, no problem. So I have one of my students, and I've actually got a couple of them right now waiting, and I'm wondering if it's the same problem, that he got an email that says he's clear to go ahead and sign up for his assessment. But when this is something, of course, through PSI is having issues with. They said, well, we're not seeing anything there. So I said, well, you should be getting a letter in the mail. And he says, no, I was told that we will no longer be getting letters in the mail that says you've been cleared for your assessment.
Okay, I will have Jasmine Argo, who is our manager in our licensing unit, answer that one.
Jasmine Argo, licensing manager, and I just wanted to speak to the firearm assessment. No, we do mail out letters. The process is once the firearm application is ready for assessment, as in all the deficiencies have been fulfilled and the firearm clearance has been received from the Department of Justice, then we do issue a letter. We send over to PSI a report every day of who has been authorized to take the assessment, and we mail out a letter. I'm not sure who may have told them we don't mail them out, but it is going out. It's also on their Breeze. It should be, if they have Breeze, they should be able to see they may be able to see their attachments on there as well, the letter being attached. So
right, and,
if they're having problems, they can email.
Yeah, and I did log into the Breeze system with him and verify that there was no letter in there. That's where a lot of the confusion was coming from. And then he said he did call down and talk, of course, through the main office, through the main number. And that's when he was told that. And I said, well, I didn't think it was right, but I would try to find out.
Okay. Yeah, they can send an email to, when they have general questions and they're not getting them answered from the call center, they can send it to our email, the BSIS at dca.ca.gov. And I would suggest putting firearm assessment in their subject line, and that will get routed to the appropriate staff quickly.
No problem. Great. Thank you very much. The last one that I kind of have is, and I'm sure people in the industry have the same questions with these live scans. I know we've been trying to beat people up 6 ways from Sunday about now having to make sure you do them separately. Does anybody really know why that got started?
Hi, this is Lynn. So when you say, separately, the live scan separately from the application?
No, I'm sorry. So we've had some students come in. Of course, they've been told by people who've been doing this for a long time. When you go to do your live scan and you want your guard card and your firearms to do them all at once, and we're noticing now that huge backlog because of that. So that's when the commission came back here some months ago and said, make sure you tell everybody to do a live scan for your guard card and then do a live scan separately for the firearms permit.
Huh, that, I haven't heard that before, but you know what? I'm gonna have,
Lynn, this is Sam. I can kind of.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
I don't think we've ever seen a direct correlation between, because when you fingerprint, the reason they do like a guard with the firearm is because you're requesting two different background checks. So you have a separate one through DOJ, which is going to send back rap sheets, and then there's a separate one where it looks at your firearms eligibility. So I haven't seen any areas where doing the live scans together causes additional delays, because DOJ, they'll update us. So DOJ, when we log into the portal, it'll tell us if there's a delay or anything like that. So I haven't seen any of those issues. I don't know if any of the other managers want to weigh in.
Yeah, this is Jasmine. I would like to just comment on some of the things I've seen with Department of Justice clearances. Unfortunately, when we go to the DOJ website, it will show that fingerprint responses have been completed. However, they are waiting for a firearm clearance before they will send it to us. We have no control over what causes this. It's a DOJ process sometimes. So occasionally people have gone and live scanned separately for a guard only and have been able to get their fingerprint responses back for their guard and get issued right away. And then we'll still wait for the firearm clearance. This is not something that we promote or suggest. It's just something that sometimes if there's a holdup at DOJ.
Yes, I know. I just, matter of fact, ran into that, I believe, a couple weeks ago. Same thing, that they would not kick out the clearance for the guard card until the firearms came back, even though they're two separate licenses.
I'm sorry, you said you have two separate licenses?
Well, the guard card's a separate license than the firearms permit. Even though it's the same background check, DOJ said, no, we will not even kick back the guard card information until the other one was completed.
If that is what DOJ told you, then we have no control over what they do. But it is the same, or it is two different license types. However, DOJ is in control of all of getting the background for both of them. So how they determine how they send it to us, we have no control over.
Okay.
And Mr. Hahn, hi, this is Lynn. Again, I just wanted to clarify a point that one of my managers brought up to me, is that the letter is not showing up on Breeze right now. So I'm not exactly sure why, but if Antoine wants to jump in and Breeze hasn't, he's telling me Breeze does not have that capability. So
yeah, we've never had that capability through Breeze. What we've started introducing lately, and we are working on releasing this to more license types, is that we will let you know what the deficiency of the application is as soon as you log on to your VO account on your Breeze account on the user end. That way you don't necessarily have to wait for a deficiency letter to be sent in. But the notice of eligibility for the assessment cannot be seen on Breeze just yet. It's something that we will be working on to hopefully try and provide everybody, but it is being mailed to folks.
Okay. Now I'm just going to go and have him kind of send an email out to you guys to see if he can maybe just get a copy of it, because obviously it's gone somewhere. Of course, we know how our mail has been lately.
Yep. No, absolutely. We're getting the Postal Service problems here as well too, unfortunately, which is adding on to our licensing or processing times.
Right. So, well, thank you very much. I apologize for taking up so much time. Again, thanks for all the work you guys have done.
All right.
Thank you.
This is the moderator, and we have no further requests for, we do have one more. We have Conrad making a request for public comment. So Conrad, I'll let you know when you've been unmuted. All right, Conrad, you're unmuted.
Okay, thank you once again. In regards to PSI, I have had several students said they received a letter, a hard copy letter in the mail, and has followed the instructions to get onto PSI and create an account. And once they submitted their guard card number, they do both submit the guard card number with the G or without the G. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Every once in a while, if they've done it both ways, PSI still does not show that the record has been found. And the only thing that I've told the students is, okay, scan that letter and email BSIS. That's the best answer I gave to the student who had that issue. I haven't heard back from him, and it seemed like everything was answered. That was my comment regarding that. My other question in regards to batons is, reporting batons to BSIS is the only way to report them via mail, or can we scan and mail them, or scan and email them to a designated email, or is there a way for that?
That is a very good question. I'm going to see if Jasmine has an answer for that. Jasmine, can you jump in?
Yes, this is Jasmine. Yes, there is an email address that you can send baton rosters to. I can give that to you right now, but it's baton permits at dca.ca.gov.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, and that's it for me. Thank you very much. I'm actually going to hang up, so bye to all.
Thank you, Conrad. All right, so this is a moderator, and that was our last request for public comment. We have no further requests for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll do that. It's closed.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we're in the final stretch here. The last item for discussion is recommendations for future advisory committee meeting agenda items. And there's one thing that I want to add on there that we forgot to add on is the schedule for next year as well. So our meetings are usually February, June, and October, the second Thursday of those months. So that's our tentative agenda for next year's schedule, but we'll check with everybody and send out an inquiry a little bit later. Excuse me. But at this time, do any committee members have recommendations for future advisory committee meeting agenda items?
Hi, Chief. This is Anton. I'm not sure if it really matters, but we did have legislation recently signed by the governor that was just that is specific to security officers regarding rest periods. And so maybe just taking 5 minutes just to update the advisory committee and the staff on how it applies in the security industry may be helpful for folks, just as a recommendation. It's AB 1512.
Great, thanks, Anton. I understand your concern with that one, but this falls under the whole, that was a labor issue, and I'm not quite sure if we can weigh in on that. That's something I'm going to have to check with our legal counsel, but yeah, we'll mark that down and then we'll update on the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, am I missing anybody? Oh, Phil, go ahead.
Thank you, Chief. This is Phil. I wanted to see if you can get some kind of a agenda possibly on discussion of firearms training exam, that we need to change it to where I've got people now who are cheating on the test by memorizing the answers only and selling them.
Oh my, yeah, that's a problem. That is definitely something that we can look into. So thank you for that. Yes, we'll put that on the.
And the other one is a baton training. Is there supposed to be physical training included in the training besides the lectures?
That's a good question. You mean like say there should be like a dummy that you can practice your baton skills on, kind of a thing?
Well, it's basically, they say the baton training is supposed to be an 8-hour course. So I usually give a 4-hour lecture course, and then in the afternoon I do hands-on, which is so the students can actually use the baton and show all the different techniques. And then at the end, we do the beating on the dummy for a few seconds just to show that they understood the techniques of the baton. And I was just wondering if part of that is a requirement. Is it part of the requirement that they have to do physical, practical training with the lecture, after the lecture?
That's a good question. I'll have to review our regs and see, but I'll put that on the agenda for next time.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Yep, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, Nancy, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we get an update on Assemblymember Holden's bill. We should have something by the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely, we should. I'll make sure that's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Frank, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Anton loves me because, of course, number one, I want, of course, another update on the PI pocket cards, and I'm sure that's a given. However, Sam, if you're still on the call, boy, it was a few years ago we brought up the topic of records retention for private investigators, and I've been, I don't want to say I've been working on it since then, but I've certainly not forgotten about that. Is that something that maybe you and I need to discuss before the next meeting, or is that something that we should put on the agenda for one of these upcoming meetings?
I would say definitely let's put it on the agenda. It's worth discussing, and it's definitely something that is needed, and I think it would be great for us to work that out.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else's hands up. So with that, we are moving on to agenda item number 14, which is adjournment. So unless anybody has any final thoughts, we will adjourn.
Chief, motion to adjourn by Frank Huntington.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, we have a motion. Oh, awesome. Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. 12:27. We will adjourn.
All right, thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all very much.
Take care. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.